Before I get to our next guest, I'm going to issue him a public apology because the last time I saw him was at a picnic and I was going around taking pictures for our website and I caught him with a mouthful of the delicious food that he was eating. And so I need to get a new photograph of Dr. Tommy Ahlquist when we post stories about him at our website. Perhaps I can get something actually where he's in a much more formal setting. Although as an individual goes, he's a very informal person to talk to. If you've met him already, and I think two-thirds of Idaho has, you find that he is actually very affable. First of all, Dr. Ahlquist, welcome back to our program today.
Hey, thanks, Bill. What I'll tell you about that is, we went on that 44 county tour in 44 days, and the joke is that I gained 44 pounds. So it's not unusual. It's not unusual to catch me with a mouthful of food. And the other 44 we added was 440 gas stations we stopped at for gas station food. So I'm right now on I'm 2 weeks into a diet, and so it's probably a better time to take a picture because I had to do something. The madness had to stop.
I know Robin Brody told me the story about running for the role of judge last year, and said that by September she had put 23,000 miles on her car. So it's a big state, and to get around it, you have to do a lot of traveling. And there's no. When I lived in Delaware, let's put it this way: the governor or candidate for governor, any candidate could be in one end of the state in a matter of 2 hours. It's not the same thing here. It requires.
Well, I'll tell you, I left yesterday morning at 5 and went to Coeur d'Alene and had 12 meetings back to back to back. Slept there, woke up this morning at 4:15 and landed, and I'm back in my office here in Boise, and now we're taking off again tomorrow, actually. So it's you know what though, Bill, thank heavens, and I don't know how you do this if you didn't. That's the part of this that I love. I hate the part where you're with kind of the political insiders and the people that think they know what's going on, and I love being out and about with people. And my goodness, sometimes yesterday, I just tell you, in the middle of a day that was just grinding through thing after thing, I went and visited a small business in Coeur d'Alene. It's a landscaping business, and met with a father and son duo and a brother that are all small business people, and had the most enjoyable hour talking to real people about what it's like to be out there. And that's the part of this that I just can't get enough of. So it's all the other stuff that when you're not used to this political environment, it kind of wears on you. But meeting with people and being around the state, there's nothing better than that.
I want to point out for folks tuning in that Dr. Ahlquist is one of the 3 Republican candidates running for governor in Idaho, and the candidates themselves don't take anything lightly, but I think for a lot of the observers, people like me, the winner of that primary in May is likely Idaho's next governor just because of the voter registration, and it's not expected that that Democrats are going to be able to find a lot of new voters come between May and November. But Dr. Ahlquist is one of those individuals who would like to succeed our outgoing governor, Butch Otter, who on Monday gave his State of the State address. And you obviously paid close attention to it because you could well be the fellow giving that speech next year.
Bill, I want to be the guy giving that speech next year. I can't wait. And yeah, we listen closely. But to me, I've had a lot of questions since Monday about what I thought or this, that, and the other. What I think this election is about, though, is the future. I look at the challenges we face and the opportunities we have, a lot of the really good things that are going on in our state, and a lot of the things we still challenges and struggles. And there's, with growth comes a lot of challenges and struggles. But I cannot wait to tackle some of the things that are out there as a state and bring some real world leadership, some fresh ideas and new approach to this thing. And so to me, rather than look back, which is, we do a lot of that because we look back at right now, I'll tell you a couple of things we're doing. We're going through each department of state government and looking at a business plan. And, you look at how money's spent and how it's used. And in real life, the 2 values that I think everything can kind of flow up towards in my life are integrity and excellence. And I think if we bring that into government and truly demand the same excellence out of government that we do out of ourselves and our own businesses and our own lives, there's just a lot of room for improvement. I look at the last 10 years in the real world and the efficiencies and innovation that have happened. And in a service-based industry, that's what government is. It's service. There's just innovation and things that I think we can do that I really believe the people of Idaho will appreciate. So I'm very excited and hope I'm giving that speech here come 12 months from now.
Your friend Steve Millington was telling me the other day, Governor Otter shared that he would like to, speaking of efficiencies, to try to get a better system, computer system, between all of the different state departments, because obviously over the years, as people got computers on their desks in the last quarter century, and we moved government more and more into online functions, and offices became more adept at that, it didn't all happen at once. But it would be an extremely expensive, at least one time outlay. Do you think that we have to sometimes do that in order to get that efficiency in the long run?
Yeah, I think the good news for us, I'll tell you, is we're so far behind, we're so antiquated that it's probably going to be a good thing. One of my businesses is an IT company that I started in 2001, and I think of from 2001 till 17, we've been in business 16 years, and I think of how many times we've upgraded in 16 years in this. We're the nation's largest provider of service for automated external defibrillators, but it's really a med tech internet-based company. And the good news for us is we're so far behind, we can kind of leap over a lot of the technology advances because so much is cloud-based now. And it really has, the price of doing these innovations has dramatically come down because of the advances in technology. The good news is we can skip, and we're probably 20 years behind or 30. We can just get forward. So I'm very optimistic that with the advances just in the last 5 years in cloud-based computing and the way databases work, I look back at my own company and what I spent 15 years ago on a database and what I'm spending now, the costs have come down if you do it right. So yes, we absolutely need to figure it out, but I'm thinking if we do it in the right way and we use some of this modern technology that we did it right and it's open and transparent, that I think we absolutely need to. I had one of my good friends that does a lot of my database work start digging into some of the state systems, and when he came back to me, he just shook his head and said, I don't even know what to tell you. The back end database is so antiquated that it's not serving anyone, and we waste so much money, taxpayer dollars, because of we're so far behind. That absolutely, Bill, will do it, and we'll do it in a way that's cost efficient, and that investment will pay off big. It's far, far, far overdue. It's kind of funny that we're talking about it now. I mean, maybe a little too late, but let's get on it and fix it because it's something that absolutely would save us money.
Of course, speaking of government spending and actually trying to cut government spending, I was at a wedding reception last summer. It was during forest fire season because we were all outside on a big patio inhaling all of the smoke in the neighborhood. But I was talking to a fellow who works in another form of news media, and he said he had just seen your proposal to cut $100 million in state spending, and he said, I don't know how this is going to be done. The budget's really lean already. And then since you made that proposal in late summer, one of your primary opponents has gone and done a proposal for cutting 10 times that much money, which would mean government in Idaho might cease to exist. I think a lot of people out there are asking, how could you possibly do this if the government is actually running lean and mean?
Yeah. So let me tell you, just to be very, and again, this $100 million comes up a lot. Where it came from, Bill, was very organically. I believe that we can be more efficient. We have a $3.5 billion budget, going to go up from that this year. And I look at efficiencies in the 40 departments that I'm analyzing now, and I see more than $100 million in. I am not saying cutting the budget. What I'm saying is let's go find $100 million in spending that we can put towards something else, that we can, we need to treat this money like it's ours. We need to remember who serves who. We need to spend each dollar as if it were our own. And I go back to every single Monday in my businesses, we have a Monday morning executive meeting, and we look at sources and uses of money. And we talk about stretching every single dollar as far as it goes, and that is the success in the real. That's how you have success in the real world. That's all I'm talking about. And I've gone over and over again on many dozens of examples of where we're going to find that money, so that we can pay for things like infrastructure, so that we can pay for things like recharge of the aquifer, so we can pay for things like maintenance of roads and bridges in Idaho. I mean, we've got this incredible growth going on here that we're going to have to fund. What on earth is wrong with saying that we're going to look for efficiencies? Now, I understand if you're a longtime legislator and you've been keeping your eye on this, it's very offensive for an outsider like me to come in and say, hey, there's probably a way we can be more efficient in a service-based industry. And if I'm offending people, well, they're going to be offended because I just see so many ways to innovate and to make our government more streamlined and bring that excellence into it, that we're going to save that money and we're going to use it for things that matter. That's very, very different than coming in and saying we're going to slash government spending. I just don't understand that. I think it's silly. The other thing on taxes that I've said is I do believe we need to get our income tax. 7.4 is high, but we're going to have to do that in a balanced and controlled way. On tax policy, I would just love if we started looking at data, for crying out loud. If we went into a session where we're not waiting for the state of the state to decide what we're even going to do, where we're working with our good legislators a year in advance with data and not having I've been asked 100 times, what would be your hope from this legislative session? And the Hippocratic oath you take in medical school, it's do no harm is in that oath. Do no harm. Make sure you're making decisions with good data, especially on tax policy that affect every family in the state, especially in rural Idaho. You start getting out into rural Idaho and talking about minor tweaks in tax policy that have huge impacts to community. I'll give you one example. Last year, the personal property tax on business is one that I really would get rid of. And right now, there's a $100,000 exemption on it. They wanted to take that to $250,000, which I thought was a great idea. Except for, Bill, I was going around the state meeting with small communities and county commissioners and looking through budgets. That one change, that one minor tweak in the tax code would reduce a county's budget by 40%. That right there is a great example of why we need to be thoughtful, we need data, we need experts, and we need a strategic plan and vision that's implemented over years. And if we don't do that, we're going to have unintended consequences that are going to cripple small communities in the state. That can't happen.
Doctor, I'm going to ask you to hold on for just a moment. We've got to take a short break here in about 30 seconds, and then we'll pick up the conversation on the other side of it. But quickly, for people who'd like to know more about your campaign, what's the website?
It's TommyForIdaho.com. Please follow us. Social media, we do posts every day. We're very active on social media. We'd love you to follow us and share and ask questions. We're very responsive too. So TommyForIdaho.com.
And we want to point out that's the word for FOR.
Yes, FOR.
All right. More coming up with Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, Republican candidate for governor in Idaho, in just a couple of minutes. We're coming up, though, on 20 minutes after 9, and it's 30 right now on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Top story with Bill Colley. And just a quick note, the weather is going to be mild, I think, for at least average to mild for the next couple of weeks, but it's the colder time of year, and if you're having a problem heating your home, you need to call the pros at Ramsey Heating and Electric. They'll come out, they'll get the job done, they'll get it done right the first time. Problem-free cozy winters are found at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Telephone number 208-678-0459. That's Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they sell warm winters and cool summers. We've got a few more minutes this morning with Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, one of the 3 Republican candidates for governor in Idaho. And he's joining us as a follow-up. Of course, legislative session is now underway, and Governor Butch Otter gave his final State of the State address on Monday. And we wanted to point out you're listening to News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley on top story. We've got 31, looking for a high today, perhaps about 36. Doctor, I know that we're down to just the last few minutes of your visit with us, at least for now, until we see you the next time. But one thing I haven't done, and I like to do this with a lot of candidates, is instead of me always asking the question, say, hey, is there anything that I haven't asked you about so far that you think really needs to be addressed?
I'll run with that opportunity. I think for me, Bill, I've spent the last year really diving in and listening to some of the problems out there that are with real families, with the people of Idaho, the businesses of Idaho. And I've never been more optimistic. We're a small, nimble state at fixing and getting in and healing a few things. Now, one is our healthcare system. We are past the tipping point, and it is time that we completely shift the conversation. I know you talk a lot about healthcare on your program. We need to stop talking about how are we going to manage the Titanic as it's sinking and start talking about what are the solutions to lower costs for healthcare in Idaho. And the good news, Bill, we could do a whole hour show on this. There are solutions for Idaho that can be implemented today that will start containing costs for the families of Idaho. We have got to start talking about that. Secondly, on education, a year into listening to superintendents and parents and teachers and principals all over the state, there are absolutely things we can do with K-12 and higher ed that need to be accelerated. Education is the foundation of what's going to keep our kids here. We've got to stop exporting our kids and do that. And then I think this tax cut that's come our way, boy, I tell you, all of my friends that are business leaders and that own these LLCs that are going to, every single one of them are talking about how they're going to reinvest in their company. I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to take advantage of, with the understanding that we're in the longest recovery since a recession since in almost 100 years now. So we're going to have another little financial dip that we need to be prepared for. So all of those things are very exciting to me. I can't wait to get the chance to start now. In the emergency room, you see a patient, you evaluate them, you get your differential diagnosis, and then you go into a treatment plan. And that's kind of where my mind shifted. It's been a year of listening and getting that differential diagnosis and listening to ideas and digging in and researching and listening to experts. Now it's time to say, here's the plan. Let's go forward. And I hope that in the coming months, there's only 4 months left, that every one of your listeners can give a chance to us where we can get a chance to tell you our vision for Idaho, tell you how leadership can work through the executive branch of government. We'll be down in Idaho Falls Monday. There's a forum with the City Club, and then at 3:30 to 4:30, we'll be right there. We're having a meet and greet at one of your little local businesses where people can come out. That I would love to see as many people there if we can. It's Sip and Sweet Treats from 3:30 to 4:30. I think they're even going to have a little flavor of Diet Coke, Bill, named after me, which is very exciting for me. I think it's going to have a little coconut and lime in it, and I cannot wait to be back in Twin Falls on Monday.
I'm a Dr. Pepper guy. I was going to point out for people who are tuning in, we briefly, you mentioned the aquifer a few minutes ago, and you talked a little bit about the rapid growth we're having in the state. And I was sharing with you in the break that I was having a conversation with Clark Kaufman, who said all of this growth will come to a screeching halt if suddenly we don't have the water. And that aquifer is huge. But on the other hand, there's obviously, I took a drive the Saturday morning before Christmas, just about sunrise, and started finding neighborhoods in my part of town I didn't even realize existed. And it's a real wake-up call to the growth. Not everyone's happy about it, obviously, but we don't try to put the brakes on it in Idaho. We don't have what you'd call a heavily regulated state. But is there a better way to maybe channel this so we can ensure that aquifer stays in place and that we don't end up with just great big run-on cities?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, spending the last 12 years of my life doing development, both residential and commercial, there are ways to do smart growth. There are ways to grow cities and our urban centers in a way that makes sense, that are efficient and sustainable. They're just simply are great best practices that we need to be paying attention to. And then getting back to the water is the lifeblood of any city. It's the lifeblood of our ag community. It's the lifeblood of our state. And I think there are a lot of good things going on. I think the agreement that's in place has been very successful. I think the recharge efforts have been amazing, and I think we need to do more of that and keep as much of this water that starts in Idaho, so that we can have that precious resource that starts here and is our water before it goes downstream. So important issue, especially in our rural communities, especially in our growing communities, which is Idaho. So yes, water will be critical going forward.
I had somebody tell me one time from Idaho Fish and Game that Idaho is really like 3 or 4 independent states because geographically it's so incredibly different when you look at it from eastern to southern to the capital region and then in the panhandle. It's not just dealing with necessarily the geography, though, is that the culture is so different. Let's say if I was up in Bonners Ferry versus being here in Twin Falls, how do you, as a governor, we got about 2 minutes to go, so I know we might have to expand on this in another visit, but how do you go about balancing all of that?
Bill, it's another thing I'm most excited about. Even though geographically you've outlined exactly why we're so different, we are the same in the fact that, again, just last night, sitting up in in Dalton Gardens, Idaho, talking to business and families there, the issues are the same. Healthcare, education, higher pay, growth, managing infrastructure. So the good news is I think if we get a plan that is an Idaho plan, right, where everyone feels part of a unified state coming together to take advantage of this incredible opportunity as a conservative state sitting in the middle of our nation, why not lead? Why not look at every list and see Idaho at the top because we're nimble, we're conservative, and we have the very best people in the United States of America. That is possible to lead from Idaho, and that's what we'll do. But we're going to do it with a statewide vision and plan where everyone feels part of that instead of regionalized, which I agree completely. That's the way we feel right now.
I have an email from a friend in Rupert. She says, tell the doctor that he gives me hope, and my wish is that he can make it to the end. Then I really like this part. He has explained exactly why our legislators are behind the times. They are old-fashioned, and need to move into the 21st century. Good luck.
I don't know who that was, but tell her I love her.
Well, Dr. Ahlquist, before you go, the website again. What's the address?
TommyForIdaho.com, and again, Monday 3:30 to 4:30 there in Twin. We'd love to meet you. Come out, check out our policies. We've got a blueprint for an even better Idaho. You can download it. Got our major policy platform, and can't wait to see you in your little town out there or area or in Twin on Monday. Thank you very much, Bill.
And we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Dr. Tommy Ahlquist joining us this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Even as Twin Falls grows so rapidly, I got to admit, it still has a good small-town feel. Well, that's because I drive to work in the morning when nobody else is on the street, so I don't have to deal with all the traffic issues. Some of you who are driving right now might be thinking, what are you talking about? Short break coming up. We've got more on the program today. Hey, I have a story here. Another imam in the United States has suggested that we need to start killing Jews. Funny how liberals attack Christians all the time, but ignore these types of things when they happen. I'll share that with you in a few minutes on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. It's 9:30, and we've got 32.